The New York Times should be ashamed of themselves. This story, if you read it carefully, indicates that Manafort is not the subject of an investigation, that there is no evidence of secret campaign or financial transfers to him. This is a nothing burger. All the news that's fit to print embellished with a Clinton tint. There's no story here. This was manufactured news. Now, juxtapose that with the New York Times failure to delve into the current criminality at the Clinton Foundation. The Clintons have set up a Clinton Foundation Canada that is unregulated, where millions of dollars from Mr. Justra, who purchased the uranium concession, have flowed. You know how much of that has been reported in the New York Times? None. So this is a manufacture, which I can reveal here, is done on the basis of research that was conducted in Ukraine by Sidney Blumenthal using heavy-handed private detectives. They have dug for months on Manafort, and they have found nothing. There is no investigation. Manafort is not a target. The scrawled note that is in the headline tracks to no bank transfer records. There is no proof of any payment to Manafort. It's a canard.
But expanding on that, he has been an international consultant to hundreds of different groups. And so I don't care if he's been a consultant to an elected government. It's George Soros running around overthrowing governments.
Well, and he has never worked for the Ukrainian government or for the Russian government.
So he hasn't.
As you point out, Alex, the whole involvement of Putin and the Russians is a canard. Let's be very clear. The DNC hacked emails involving the theft from Bernie Sanders and the role of Deborah Wasserman Schultz was hacked by Crucifer 2 and posted online 5 weeks ago. When it got no traction, he took those documents to WikiLeaks. They put them out, and they received substantial traction. No involvement by the Russians, no involvement by Putin. The whole idea that Manafort and Trump are somehow aligned with Putin, working with Putin, this is a falsehood.
Well, I've now confirmed from our NSA sources, not just Benny on air, but the word is it's been tracked. It is U.S. sources in intelligence leaking most of this now because they're so concerned about Hillary. And I have had the Secret Service, Mr. Stone, directly give us intel confirming her medical issues now, which I tell you is one of the scariest things I've ever done because I know how serious this is.
Yeah, look, I think that her medical issues are yet another example of the New York Times shirking their responsibilities and essentially writing nothing.
But isn't the New York Times owned by a Mexican kingpin now? I mean, let's get real here.
No, it is owned by Carlos Slim, who is the largest single donor to the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative. That's who owns a controlling interest in the New York Times, which is why you have this assault on Paul Manafort, which is really about attacking Trump, instead of any investigative journalism about the corruption of the Clintons. This is disgraceful. And frankly, I never heard of the reporters whose names are on this story, but they should be ashamed of themselves because they admit no government official says Manafort has been charged with wrongdoing in the story. He is not the subject of.
Well, why don't we just have an article saying that they found the yellow cake Niger uranium at Paul Manafort's house?
Well, what's particularly disturbing about this is that within seconds of it being posted last night, it was tweeted online by Corey Lewandowski. So now I think it is fair to say that Lewandowski is in league with Sidney Blumenthal and the Clintons, and in this case, with the New York Times, to discredit.
And he works with CNN.
Campaign. To hurt the campaign. Pathetic. Really pathetic.
So now you used to tell me privately you just thought Lewandowski was an idiot. You're saying now you think he's been an operative all along or just now?
Well, why would you do something detrimental to the Trump campaign? Why would you spread complete disinformation? Unless, of course, you're putting yourself ahead of Trump, which is what I think he has done in this instance. Look, Alex, as you know, late last week, shortly after it became known on this program that I have had some back-channel communication with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange regarding the fact that everything that Huma Abedin and Cheryl Mills, the Clinton aides, thought that they erased on Hillary's illegal server is in the possession of WikiLeaks. Probably also the Chinese, the Russians, the Saudis, and the Israelis, but most definitely in the hands of WikiLeaks. This is political dynamite. Shortly thereafter, as you know, I myself was hacked. It's far worse than I reported last week. My personal email accounts, my business email accounts, my bank account was accessed, my websites were accessed, my social media feeds were accessed. Two of my associates who work with me, one based in Texas, one based in California, both hacked at the same time.
So a total data scoop to find out who you're talking to.
30 years worth of political contacts erased. Email contacts erased.
Sabotage.
Documents that I was working on, research I was working on, erased. Now, fortunately, all of this is backed up in a server in New York, and therefore all they've done is make me more determined to bring them down and put me back about 4 or 5 days.
I mean, it really seems like they're putting out these polls to create the hoax that he's behind so that people think he's going to lose. What's the real numbers right now, as best you can tell, Mr. Stone?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Alex. It was my intention today to publish a major paper on exactly how this election can be rigged and where exactly I expect it to happen. To be clear, both parties have been involved in machine rigging. It's the party in power in the given states that will rig the machines, and therefore Pennsylvania and Virginia are two states that must be monitored closely. What do I mean by that? Very simply, we need to conduct exit polls. So if the difference between the results, the official results from the machines, and the exit polls are different, we will know that this election has been rigged. That has to be done. I'm going to unveil a plan shortly to do it. But the hacking of my email, frankly, put me behind a day or two. No big deal, because the struggle continues.